We are back and we have a few enhancements to make with our scissor cipher. So let's add a couple things. We're going to, let me add some comments up here at the top for what we want to do. Get input for the message and also the shift value. I'd also like to add to get input for encrypting or decrypting our text. So if we already have an encrypted message that somebody's given us, we can decrypt it. Encrypt or decrypt. So what does the user want to do with regards to that? And lastly, as we talked about in the last video, we'd like to account for uppercase characters. Not get input, excuse me. Get work well with upper and lowercase characters. So let's do the low-hanging fruit first, or the easy things first. We already have our input here from earlier, where we're getting input from the user. So I'm going to uncomment that and delete our hard-coded variable. We also have that for our shift value, so I'm going to delete that. And let's see. So that takes care of this one. I'm just going to add an X there, or a done rather. Let's get input for encrypt or decrypt. So let's ask the user. So let's see, we'll call it our method. Method equals input D for decrypt or E for encrypt. Okay, and I just have single quotations here within my double quoted string, so that will not cause any errors. Python likes that. And we need to say if it is, let's come back to that. Let's come back to our encrypt or decrypt. Let's work with our upper and lowercase characters. Here we have for every character in our plain text, and I'm going to change this so it makes sense if we're encrypting or decrypting. So what we can do, this is a neat function with PyCharm or other IDEs. We can refactor. So plain text, I'm highlighting that, refactor, rename. So every instance of plain text, we can rename to input message. Okay. So we see that's also changed here. Refactoring is just another way of saying changing something, essentially. And PyCharm knows how to change that throughout our file for us. It's also changed it there. So we have our input message, and instead of ciphertext, let's refactor this to if it will populate for me. Let's try that again. Refactor. There we go. Rename. Let's say output message. So either encrypted or decrypted. So we see it changed that as well. Okay. Hit enter to accept that. Shift value, it doesn't like this for some reason because it expected an int and it got a string. Okay, that's because our shift value here is a string. So what we need to do is cast it to an integer. And we're going to make it more specific integer. We're just giving the user that input so they know this needs to be an integer. All right, so that should take care of getting the input for the message and the shift value. We're getting the input for encrypt decrypt. We need to do modify for encrypt decrypt. Done. And we need to work well with uppercase and lowercase. So uppercase and lowercase. What we can do, if char is alpha, we're saying if it's a letter, we can come down here and we can check if it's uppercase. If char dot, we're going to call a string method, is upper, then we can, let's see, actually, let's not do that there. If char is upper, we probably want to do this a little bit below here. Let's do this a little bit below and I'll explain why. We have our shifted char. Here we go. Because we want to do all these calculations first and then check if it's upper. So if char, our original char in our input message is upper, if it's an uppercase letter, just that built-in string method, then let's make shifted char uppercase. So we already have our shifted char. Like we've given it the shift already through the alphabet. We've shifted it some number of values. Then we can say shifted char equals shifted char dot upper. So we're just changing this back to an upper. So we can have our lowercase string, alphabet string, and just check all the characters against that. But if our character is uppercase, our original character in our message, our input message, then we can just make that shifted character uppercase after that. So that should take care of this one. Let's test. We should be getting input. Right now we're not doing anything with this D for decrypt or E for encrypt. Let's check. Enter message to be encrypted. Let's say today is Tuesday. Enter. Shift value, let's shift by 5. We'll just say encrypt, even though, okay, that did not work. Let's debug this together. And I'm going to put a colon here and a space to make it look a little prettier to the user. As you saw, this E input was right after my message to the user, but I like it where, there we go. I like it where we've got like a colon and a space. That's usually a little easier to read. So what we got on line 24, right here, index is alphabet.index char. Oh, okay. So substring not found. So this is what we ran into earlier. We're not finding an uppercase value. So we have to change it to lowercase. Let's see. Let's change it to lowercase. What we can do, we can check if our character is upper right here. We could say is upper. This will be a Boolean. Char.is upper. This method returns true if the character is uppercase. Okay, so this will be true if it's an uppercase value. And then we just change it to a lowercase character. So all uppercases will be changed to lowercase right here. we'll get our index, we'll get the shifted index, and get the value of the shifted character. Then so then we just check if is upper. So we're checking against this Boolean. If is upper, then we're reverting it back to an uppercase character. Let's try that. Today is Tuesday. 5E. Okay. That seems to work. We see these characters are uppercase. So let's now consider that one done and modify for encrypt decrypt. And this, by the way, it's a good exercise for us is testing snippets that we create, or testing bits of code as we go along, instead of writing a ton of code and then testing, because there could be various, and likely will be various, issues with the code before we're able to test. And testing will help us discover those issues. So it's good to write snippets of code or small chunks or particular things that do a particular task and then test, as we've seen here. So last thing we need to do is modify for if they want to encrypt or decrypt. So let's see, how would we decrypt this, by the way? All we need to do is reverse the shift value. So if I copy this encrypted text, and I'm going to change this to original message and modified message, depending on if we're encrypting or decrypting. Let's enter this text. I've copied it as our input. So let's run. We just need to inverse the shift value. So we shifted 5. Let's shift -5. This is still not doing anything, so I'm just going to put E. So we see our original message was that gibberish, and our modified is now the plain text that we had earlier. It makes sense. So we just need to reverse the value. So let's see. What we could do is we could just change. You know what? What I like instead is actually, and I love that we're doing this as we go along, you need the shift value from whoever's encrypted the message. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to print here a message to the user, enter negative shift value to decrypt. Here, let's put that, enter shift value of an integer, enter negative shift value to decrypt. All right. I think that takes care of that. That's probably the best way to do it. So I've saved, let's say we have a ciphertext. I want to decrypt it. I've been given a shift value of 5. I'm going to enter a message here, enter message to be modified. I'm going to change that. Let's run it again, stop and run. Okay. -5. There we go. That was the original message. That's the modified message. Let's paste this into our online tool. Let's check. I think I can do this both ways. We need to change our shift value to 5. Yeah. So our ciphertext with a shift value of 5, the original plain text would have been today is Tuesday. So there you have it. Check it out. If we just enter a long string of text here, this should be our ciphertext. Let's try running our program against that. I'm going to paste. Okay. Shift value of 5. Modified message. Capital R, JYMTI, R, JYMTI, and let's check the end, last few characters, SHJ period. SHJ period. And let's just make sure we can decrypt that. So let's try running it again. So that's our encrypted or our ciphertext. -5 for our shift value to decrypt. Original message was that, and our modified message method in which each letter, that makes sense. So we've successfully created a Caesar cipher, guys. You could give this program to your friend. You guys could send messages to each other. You just need to specify the shift values, and you can encrypt and decrypt messages. Again, I want to iterate, this is not secure. It's very easy. You could paste the shifted characters into online, and very easily an output would show you what the original message was. So don't send anything sensitive. But if someone's looking over your shoulder, you could have a message like this displayed, and unless they took a picture, they wouldn't know what it meant. So pretty nifty stuff. And I hope you enjoyed that project. It was kind of a longer one, but I think these code along projects are good to watch and get familiar with and practice programming as we go along. This program was 36 lines of code. So you can start to see the power of Python with only 36 lines, and a lot of that being comments here. Only 30 lines or so. We can do some awesome stuff. So, all right. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video.